I'm your host, Monique Watson, and this is the Victory Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us. So on today's episode, we sat down with my husband, Christian Watson, and talked a little bit about love and gaming, especially how they intertwine in our relationship. So Christian talks a bit about his experience and history with gaming, also gives some tips and tricks for folks who are looking to get into the world of gaming, even if you're not looking to play, but maybe to engage more with a spouse or your children. So really good information, and then kind of spell out some info about different games specifically. So I really hope you enjoy it, and thanks for listening. Info about different games specifically. So I really hope you enjoy it, and thanks for listening. Thank you for joining me. This is the Victory Podcast, and this is a special episode. I'm sitting down here with someone I've known for quite a podcast, and this is a special episode. I'm sitting down here with someone I've known for quite a long time. I'd say he's my best friend and husband, Christian Watson. Christian, welcome to the podcast.
Hello.
So yeah, this is a bit different. Everyone is aware, timing of this is end of April, and we're in our shelter in place. So it makes it a little bit challenging doing a podcast, but I have conveniently located another human being in our household. So we decided to kind of chat a bit today, just to give folks an outline of kind of what we're going to talk about. We'll talk a little bit about gaming. My husband, Christian, is really big into gaming and has been for quite some time. Kind of talking about how he first got started into the gaming realm, some of his favorite games, and then maybe tips for folks that are interested in gaming. So parents maybe trying to connect with their kids into the gaming world, or maybe you're like myself and you're started with a little bit of intro maybe for folks about who you are and the how we know each other is a little bit, however you want to talk about that.
So, New Orleans born and raised. I'm 29. So, she's got a couple years on me, but I suppose that she was attracted to me because I'm older than my age dictates.
Yeah, so how we met from your perspective at least.
We
met from your perspective at least.
We met online for sure on OkCupid. I was in college, I was very lazy, I would say, and I just didn't like going at first. The first option is always, I should watch my volume. But anyways, the first option is always, try and meet women around school and things like that. But that wasn't working out, obviously. And I went to Tulane University in New Orleans, by the way. And so, that wasn't working out. So online dating was kind of growing at the time. There was no Tinder, but yeah, OkCupid and like Plenty of Fish were like the big websites at the time. So I was on Plenty of Fish before, but
especially for free ones, right?
Oh yeah,
free.
There's
always eHarmony.
Yeah, there was Match and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
But like I said, college student, I was like, come on now, I'm not paying for that. What the heck?
Yeah.
So, so I signed on to them. I was on Plenty of Fish before OkCupid, but that, whatever. It worked out, didn't work out. I think I had one. Whatever. It worked out, didn't work out. I think I had one actual relationship from there, but obviously, whatever, right? So I got on OkCupid, same kind of thing, nothing, a date here and there, nothing really happening. And I sent a message to this pretty lady, and radio silence, I don't know, because back in the dating world, I'm sure I couldn't go back, but ever. Obviously, I'm married, but it was like I'm just sending message after message after message, and like commenting on their profiles and saying, "Oh, this is neat. I really like this that you talk about," and and then getting nothing because they're getting bombarded by 100 dudes, a day, right? So I'm just sending message after message and, radio silence. So it was dawn and it was, I don't know. She told me it was a couple weeks later or something like that.
It was either weeks or, I think it was months later.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I think you sent the message, not to interrupt in your story. But,
no, you're good.
But I want to say, and I have no idea because I've long since canceled my account and all that. I have no idea because I've long since canceled my account and all that.
That's what it says.
And, but I think it was like, I want to say you sent me the message in May. And you want me to tell you why? Or tell the people why I didn't?
Oh, yeah. Tell the people.
So, I mean, it wasn't anything, well, it was something against him. So, I mean, it wasn't anything, well, it was something against him. So, his picture, this is early on in the realm of, like, bathroom selfies before they've become quite perfected now. I think people, like, low-key have, like, additional lighting they bring in for their bathroom selfies. Because the bathroom selfies have gotten really fantastic. But this was not one of those. No, early in the realm of bathroom selfies. But, yeah, so his selfie looked like he had 2 earrings. And, no shade on people who have earrings, do you? If that's what you like. And, no shade on people who have earrings, do you? If that's what you like in your mate, for guys of the male gender. It wasn't a look that I liked, especially it looked like hoop earrings too. It looked like the straight up MJ hoop.
Yeah, it wasn't like like she's not talking like diamond earrings.
Yeah, because that I could maybe kind of hang with, but it was these small, it was like, for those who are watching The Last Dance, think of the MJ hoop earring, but on 2 ears. I was just like, I can't. Yeah. And then, and I'll have to.
It's just like the lighting.
It was the lighting, and there were like shower curtain hoops, I guess, is what we eventually figured out. And my husband, and I'll share a picture of us so people know what you look like, so then they can stalk you.
Good luck.
Looks. I know your online presence is minimal. Yeah, he has a very youthful face, even today at 29. So I mean, this was, what is it, 7 years ago now, going on 8.
Yeah.
So
22 looked 17.
Yeah, so I was sure that he was up here trying to catfish me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and this was like early on the catfishing thing too. That was definitely on. So I was like pretending to be 22 or whatever. Because it seemed like such a random. Yeah, he's like, okay, 5'9". He's probably short. And then, so I just kind of ignored it for a while. The earring thing was like the first part of that. And then him looking youthful was like a close second.
Yeah.
And then we messaged, and then, I don't know. This is probably first.
Talk about it
yeah.
Yeah. So
how we met and dates and stuff.
So a little bit about the actual messaging. Once again, like I said, it was, for me, it was, sending messages after messages and like almost getting invested in that person. Like, wow, I really like, what they're into. This is cool. They like the same movies I do. Have movies. Most of the time they wouldn't mention anything like video games, right? But, it's like, oh, okay, I at least share some kind of interest with this person. I would like to date them or whatever, So obviously with my now wife, with Monique, I don't remember if a profile, what stood out about your actual profile, but obviously I messaged you, so something, I wanted to talk to you for some reason. Anyway, so whoever would message me back, I was just excited to talk to them, and I had already had the mindset back then that I didn't want to play games with anybody. I didn't want to, seem like I'm more busy than I was. Like, I'm a college student. Come on. Like, yeah, I worked hard. I had a lot of schoolwork to do. I was in like engineering, physics when we met. You're a college student. You have tons of time. You have so much time. So I didn't want to play any games. So, she messaged me and I messaged right back, and she said she was like surprised. She always tells me when we like kind of reminisce about the meeting that she was surprised at how fast I would reply, exchange numbers, and got off the platform. And yeah, the rest is history, I suppose. Our first date was at Audubon Park, or Wait.
Yep.
Yeah.
Audubon.
Yeah. Well, yeah. One of the Audubon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Audubon.
Yeah. Well, yeah. One of the Audubon. Hey, what do they
No,
call it?
it's just Audubon Park. Everything
Is it
Audubon.
really?
So Audubon has the park, and then they have the aquarium and like the Audubon Aquarium, Audubon Institute, Audubon Insectarium. But I think there's just the one park because City Park is its own insectarium. But I think there's just the one park because City Park is its own thing by the city.
Yeah. Well, it was the Audubon thing around the golf course.
It's Audubon Park. That's what it's called.
Okay. All
Full
right.
stop.
I'll. Yeah. She's right. Yeah.
Just get that B-roll.
Yeah.
You want to talk about our would have been first date?
I know. Oh yeah. That was short. So that was we were gonna do the date, and ended up she did something with her mother. I forgot. You were hanging out with your mom watching a.
Yeah, so like we were supposed to meet. So our first date officially was September 11th, 2012. So 9/11/12, easy to remember. We were supposed to go on a date the week before that weekend. Because I live, and just context, I lived about 40 minutes away from like where Christian lived.
Yeah.
Just because it was closer to my job and stuff, right? So we were going to meet. The night before that, I had gone out with my friends, and so I was a bit hungover. Whatever. And so I went, and that day, it was like a Sunday, and watching the Saints game, and I was hanging out with my mom, and I was like, let me go home. I'm going to, and watching the Saints game, and I was hanging out with my mom, and I was like, let me go home. I'm going to go home and take a nap, and then come back over here for my date later. Because I was like super tired. So I go home, and I'm convinced I set an alarm, but I don't know if I just turned it off in my sleep or what. So I go home, take a nap, miss my alarm or whatever. But wake up about 10 minutes before we were supposed to meet. So like I said, I'm 40 minutes away, so it would have been at least a half hour late. So I called Christian, and he was like, oh, it's fine. Let's just reschedule, which I was completely surprised. I was like, he's going to be so done. And I mean, we had been texting for like a week or two.
Yeah.
But, yeah. But luckily, he gave me a second chance. Lucky for him. He gave me a second chance.
Yeah, and from my perspective, it was something that happened regularly. You know, people, they flake all the time. But, you know, y'all know what I'm saying, right? Sometimes it just doesn't work out. So I was, you know, I'm just the kind of person where, you know, something could have happened. It could be whatever. So I figured I'd give it a benefit of the doubt. Like I said, I wasn't upset at all. I think it was before I even left. So it's not as if I had wasted gas or, you know, really, like I said, college student. So it was a Saturday afternoon. It's not like I was doing anything, right?
Sunday, I think, yeah.
Oh, Sunday. Saturday, Sunday, you know. So, Saturday, Sunday, you know. So, you know, it's whatever. It's just like, hey, let's just reschedule for next week. And, you know, we'll see what's up. If it's like a second and third time, you know, and there's not like a really good reason, then I would have been like, okay, well, sorry, you know, whatever. But obviously, so I was getting ready actually on that September 11th, and so my brother cut my hair at the time, and so I was like, look, I'm going on this first date with this girl, this lady, I don't know, girl, whatever.
I'm down with it.
Like, all right, whatever. You know, so
that's the absolute perfect response to imitate your brother.
Very yeah, that's our interactions basically. So he's cutting my hair, and I'm like, wait, you need to stop. I was feeling like super sick all of a sudden, like super down. He was like, what the heck? And yeah, I had like a half cut head. I'm laying on the floor. He has like a tile flooring, so it was nice and cool. So I was like just trying not to throw up basically. And then I don't know, after like 10 minutes or so, I felt better, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And he finished cutting my hair. Felt better, and I'm like, all right, let's go. And he finished cutting my hair, and, you know, make sure I was looking all right. And then, because I was like kind of scared, because I'm like, I got to drive like 20-ish minutes. It's like once I get there, you know, we're just walking around, it's all good. But driving, I don't want to get in an accident. So I was a little bit afraid, but I didn't want to flake, right? So whatever, pushed through that and got there. It's as they say, it's history from there. So yeah, we been together September.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's been a wild ride for sure.
For sure. And we'll leave that for a second part at some point to go some of our wild ride of our relationship.
Yeah.
So, COVID-19 thoughts. What's it been like sheltering in place with me?
So
this is the real Monique.
This day, I don't know if I want to date. I mean, it's obviously dated because
April 28th, 2020.
April 28th, boys. We're still here. So the first thing is, I mean, this thing evolves every week, right? Just how kind of insane it is, and just still grasping the reality and the impact of everything. But like at first I'm like, okay, let's just calm down, let's wash our hands, let's not touch our face, we'll get through this, right? And then as it just started becoming more and more serious and more global pandemic-y, it was like, okay, I understand why people are freaking out. I was never the type of like, don't shut down the economy, don't do all of this. I was like, no, do whatever. Like, thankfully we don't live near our grandparents. Or anything right now, or even our parents, because they're kind of in that age range now. Mm-hmm. So, we can't, like, we just don't have anyone to infect, right, in our vicinity. So, right? So we can't hurt anybody, but I'm worried about other people's. Like, I see all type of old folk, living around here in our apartment complex and at the grocery store. So it's not for me. It's not. I mean, it is for us because obviously we don't want to get sick, but it's for them. And that's why it kind of hurts me when, you see these people out there protesting and, against the government and stuff like that. And it's like, no, we're not. This is not for you. It's no one wants to shut down the economy. Yeah. So that's been kind of crazy. And, I fully expected that people, they'll come up with whatever crazy kind of stuff to say. And I don't know. It's the internet. You can't think of that as the majority. The majority of people don't feel that way. And, everybody's trying to get by. So, I see that stuff and it's like, wow, that's ridiculous. I can't believe there are people that think like that. But just realizing that that's not the majority, and not like despairing, in those kind of thoughts. But personally, my life has not changed very much. It really has not. I've just been looking for a job for the past long time, so I've always been working from home, as it were. Obviously, even from the beginning, like when I've been kind of pursuing software engineering for like the past, I guess, year and a half, I had always preferred, if I had an opportunity of remote versus, on, take the remote job, because, no commute, you save a lot of time. I can use my own computer setup, which, obviously I've configured to my exacting needs. Well, not needs, but wants. So I would always kind of prefer that. Say in the past, I was looking for like a 60-40 split of on-site versus remote. And now it's more like 80-20, because obviously they just aren't posting on-site positions. Really, whatever. But so, it doesn't matter for me because I'm an engineer. I don't know, something that needed to be on site, right? So as far as home life, yeah, I play video games. Obviously that doesn't require being anywhere. So And like I said, my setup is hey, very very nice. So hey, very very nice. So yeah, I guess the biggest difference is Monique's here all the time, and we made jokes about it at first. It's like, oh, it's come on, what do you expect? It's like people, you're gonna make those jokes like, oh, we're gonna go crazy. It's gonna people, you're gonna make those jokes like, oh, we're gonna go crazy. It's gonna be whatever. Obviously, I love her company and things like that, but I had by like the second or third week, I did realize like, hey, you being here is very distracting to me. And it's obviously she's not trying to be distracting. She's not doing it. I love her so much. I just want to go and bother her, or go, talk to her, or do something, make her laugh or something like that. So, so it's not like a bad thing. Like she's driving me crazy. It's just I want to be with her all the time, but I have to work. Like there's a thing I have to figure out for myself. And we've both gotten better, and then she's at this point she's kind of going in a couple days a week now. So for days that she's here, there are certain activities that I can do that'll kind of command my attention. And on those days where she's gone and there's less distractions, then I know I can do like things that are harder for me to stay on task. So I'm kind of working out a system. So as far as like the personal COVID situation, hadn't changed that much though.
Word. Okay, we talked about gaming. It's a great segue into this discussion. So a big part of, I think, throughout our relationship, for sure, and especially from like 2015 when we went to the first Dota 2 tournament, which we can probably explain to people what that is. And onward, gaming has been a big part of our relationship and your life, I would say, as well, right? So maybe you can tell folks a little bit about like, when did you kind of first start getting into gaming and some of the games you like to play. You don't have to, I know if we sat down and started ranking exhaustive, we don't have that kind of time.
No.
It'd be like an 8-part series just talking about all the games that you play, but maybe just a couple that you really like or playing right now at least. The games that you play, but maybe just a couple that you really like or playing right now at least. And then if there's tips for folks, like I know like there are big games emerging, right? So parents, there's a lot of parents that work on my site. People are really, I don't know if this is still the case, I'd be curious to do a poll, but a lot of people were into Fortnite, for example. So trying to understand the gaming kind of opens up the conversation around what gaming is and kind of what things people are into, and how can I, as a parent who wants to engage with my kid, right? These preteen teenagers and stuff. How can I get into gaming or understand more about gaming?
Yeah. So, kind of entry into gaming. The first game I remember really connecting with and like just being hopelessly addicted to was a game on Super Nintendo called Donkey Kong Country 3. It's funny because now when you look at but I love that game. I played it a lot to an annoying degree, as described by my mother. I'm not telling that story, but definitely remember that was kind of the first game I was into. So Super Nintendo, I remember playing obviously like Super Mario was a huge part of my childhood. Street Fighter, a lot of Street Fighter. My brother would make me play, and I never got to play Ryu, the main guy. He would always make me play Ken, who was like the same. I didn't like him because he wasn't Ryu. Anyway, so a lot of Street Fighter, classic. So yeah, and throughout like Sega Dreamcast, things like that. So I grew up in that kind of late 90s, early 2000s era of gaming. 2000s era of gaming. I have a really a Dreamcast holds a really fond place in my heart. I really love the Dreamcast. I still have one. It's the only Well, that and the GameCube is the only system that I have now because of Hurricane Katrina. Destroyed my Super Nintendo, Genesis, even like PlayStation, the old PlayStation I had, and then like the collection of games. That was like the thing that hurt the most that I lost, honestly. The clothes, whatever, I don't care. But honestly, the clothes, whatever, I don't care. But all the memories, there's so many memories tied up in those cartridges and things, and so many nights I spent up, trying to beat the last boss or whatever, right? So that's kind of my history of gaming. Nowadays, I spend a lot more time playing on PC, like computer games. A lot of, I used to play a lot of Dota 2, which we can talk about a little bit because that also ties in. Game I still watch a lot of. I just don't play as much because it's a very stressful game, a very time-consuming game, and I'm just kind of at a stage where I'm trying to get away from stressful games, right? Just because there's enough. I got enough of that. So, fighting game, not as old as Street Fighter, but definitely has about as much legacy, I would say. So I had played Tekken since Tekken 1, like way back when in the 90s, but I never like actually played and like getting better and just that kind of climb that I don't want to say struggle, but just it is a struggle sometimes, but just that I don't know, that Rocky style montage of you training and there's this guy that keeps beating you over and over again and you don't know how beating him effortlessly, and it's like that journey is super fun with fighting games specifically. So I spend a lot of time playing that. Let's see. Trying to think. There's a new Call of Duty out. Very fun, actually. I love the feature where you shoot the guy. It's a shooting game, obviously, and you can hear their mic for a second, so you always hear them like, God darn it, you shoot him, and you hear him just angrily yell at you. Haven't heard any racism yet, which is actually kind of surprising. So, hey, good on them for moderating the community, I suppose. So.
Still early.
What's that?
It's still early. It just came out, right?
No, it's been out since November.
Oh, okay.
It's been out since November.
Oh, okay.
It's been a decent.
Probably tossed enough people.
Yeah, and that's the thing, man. I could talk about this stuff all day, but yeah, like that's a lot of the reason. Like in the Xbox days, and early Xbox Live days, it was actual hot garbage. Like people throwing N-words and everything, all like nothing. It's actually ridiculous. It was actually ridiculous. It can get like that now, but now people are more mature. Like even like the 12-year-olds, there being some kind of consequences for like whatever, and people being able to recognize you on these different platforms. There's just been less of it, but even still, it's kind of just because of that kind of conditioning period. Like I would open my mouth and people would know I'm black, or that would just be their go-to because it's just such a harmful kind of thing to say, right? And it's just easy. So I kind of just tend not to speak up unless I'm playing with my friends that I've known for years. So anyways, that's kind of a summary of what I'm playing now. And for people trying to get into games, I would say my first thought is think about if you had played games ever in your life. I'm gonna start with these folks. Like say, like me, you played Super Mario back in the day. You played. Now I don't go back to Atari. I don't know all of that. That's before my time. But if you ever played at the old arcades, kind of think about those kind of games, you probably heard of Street Fighter if you've ever been in an arcade. Mortal Kombat is another one. That was very popular back then, in those days. So think about those games. Oh yeah, I used to play Super Mario. I used to play Street Fighter, and see. I assure you, there's a lot of games that are like that, that are out today. Out now, and maybe check it out. I don't know, like if you have kids, see if they have it or something like that. That's kind of my first thought. Try and find something that was similar to what you used to play. Understand that there are going to be differences because games are just designed. Understand that there are going to be differences because games are just designed differently now for 100 different reasons. Yeah, that's a whole nother podcast talking about that. But so that's my first thing. Try and find something that's similar to what you used to play, if you played anything. Similar to what you used to play, if you played anything. If you don't play anything at all, or if you just don't really feel like doing that searching, my next piece of advice is to kind of go on twitch.tv. So twitch.tv is primarily a game streaming website
/ Netflix of gaming.
It's a bit different because it's live streaming.
Right.
It's primarily live streaming. You hardly ever have people watching the videos. So a lot of streamers, like the people who actually, channel that's for like live broadcasts, and then they have a YouTube channel. So
okay.
Yeah. So what I would recommend, so you're going to go on Twitch TV, and the first thing you're going to see is like this. I don't know if you're on your phone. I'm just going to assume you're on your phone. It's like they'll have like recommended streams, like front page streams they call them, and those are usually pretty good to check out. Maybe you can like thumb through those, and it's like, oh, that looks kind of interesting. What are they playing? What are they doing? I know though a lot of the time, what are they doing? I know though a lot of the time, really, the game it's almost like a 50-50 between the game and the actual streamer. So if you see a game you enjoy and you don't like the person, know that is not the only, there's the person, know that is not the only, there's hundreds, thousands of people probably streaming that game if it's like a popular game, right? So I wouldn't despair on that. But if there's a game you like, I would say just go ahead, tune in, go ahead, tune in, just give it a watch. Sometimes, probably like 20-ish minutes. You don't have to study it, like you don't need to learn it. It depends on the streamer too, because there are like a lot of different types of streamers. The bigger ones, different types of streamers. The bigger ones they really are like entertainers in the way that you think of like a comedian or something like that. They are, through hundreds and thousands of hours of streaming it for an audience and kind of growing that audience and kind of grooming it. So sometimes the gameplay is like secondary to entertaining or whatever. So I don't know, it's kind of hard to really recommend. You really just have to kind of kind of look around and see. So what you're gonna see, one of the top games, and we can just talk about that, about getting into gaming, is Fortnite. So a lot of you folks with children, your kids, especially if they're around the ages of like 12, 14, something like that, they're probably into Fortnite. Whether you know it or not, they probably are. So I wouldn't go going around like, yeah, I know the Fortnite, just kind of learn a little bit, because that's probably the best way to get your kids to cringe. Now, if that's your objective, do that. Call it fork knife, by the way, as in the utensils. That's hilarious. Fork knife, by the way, as in the utensils. That's hilarious. Really good dad joke, honestly. But just watch that a little bit. Basically, Fortnite is what they call a battle royale. So they drop 100 people onto a map. So and a map is just like an area, a play area, a huge play area, and people they pick up weapons and stuff like that, and they try to be the last person standing, shoot everyone else basically. And if you stand in the storm, you slowly die. So you're kind of incentivized to come to a smaller place, and obviously if you shrink the area, you see more people, there's more fighting. So basically you're just trying to be the last person standing, and that's kind of the absolute basics of Fortnite. You're gonna see a lot of people streaming that. People have literally made life-changing amounts of money streaming it because it just kind of got so huge like a year or two ago. It's still one of the biggest games. I don't know the exact numbers on it anymore, just because I don't play it, and I don't know the exact numbers on it anymore, just because I don't play it and I don't follow it. But yeah, it would behoove you to at least know about it, right? You don't have to like it, but if you just want to get into it and know a little bit about it, understand your kids a little bit better. Yeah, it wouldn't about it. Understand your kids a little bit better. Yeah, it wouldn't. I say you don't need to watch that much of it. A lot of it's gonna look weird, especially because Fortnite, unlike other shooters, you can kind of create your own terrain. You can make like steps. You can kind of create like your own little house. Use it as cover to prevent other people from just like shooting you from a long distance. And so you're gonna see a lot of that, and it's pretty insane. It's like really like impressive as a skill. So when you watch it, it's gonna look pretty confused all the time. So don't get discouraged, And maybe if your kids are into it, maybe ask them, like you probably throw on a stream. I don't know, like don't force them, right? That's probably a mistake, but it's just like you're watching and then they kind of pass by and they're like, Mom, okay, so I know about this, what is he trying to do right here? And then maybe they'll explain it to you. I don't know, that's your kids. I have no idea. So yeah, another big one, I don't know if people are streaming nowadays. I have my own streamers that I go and watch, and I don't really go exploring that much anymore. Because Twitch is like my TV. I don't like to watch like Netflix and stuff unless my wife is watching something. Like I don't go seeking TV shows, right? I just go throw on a stream. That's my background noise, and then I do my, I go about my day. Oh yeah, I go about my day. Oh yeah, there's a new game coming out. It's another shooting game. It's called Valorant, and it'll be easier to follow than Fortnite. It takes place in like rounds. There's two teams of like 5 or 6 people. Each player gets like a hero character. I don't know if they are able to switch between rounds, but each hero has like different abilities, which I have no idea. I don't know. So you probably don't even need to know. The most important thing is people shoot each other, and like once you get knocked out or whatever, killed in that round, you're down until the next round. So that's really that's just kind of another name to kind of get familiar with if you want to get into gaming. But yeah, also like the first point, if you have something in mind that you used to watch or you used to play, somebody's probably playing that. There's a huge community of what's called speedrunners. They like to play, especially a lot more interesting with like glitches and mechanics and just really fine-tuned movement and just like technical skill required to play them.
So the idea, just to give people some context, just so they understand. So speedrunning, they're trying to beat the game as fast as possible. And they also have like, sometimes they do it in different styles, different like
they'll
challenges.
Have different rules.
Like maybe they'll get to go back to a game like the Nintendo 64 version of Mario is a popular one.
Super
that people
popular
speed run. right? So they'll do, and anyone who can remember fondly playing on Nintendo, right? So they'll do, and anyone who can remember fondly playing on Nintendo 64, there's a bunch of different levels and you're trying to get stars, right? So they might do a speed run version of that game to get all of the stars in the game, right? There's like
as fast as possible.
As fast as possible. It's like
as fast as possible.
As fast as possible. And they'll utilize glitches, so like places where in the game, like the corners of a level that'll let you jump to a different part of the game that lets you skip a bunch of fights and other critters that you would have to fight. Yeah. So those kinds of things.
So like say, it's like, for example, like a really hard game back in the day, Contra on the Nintendo. Watching the speed run of that is hilarious because, you know, it's this extremely hard game and they beat the stuffing out of it. You know, that might actually be that's also good to just look up on YouTube. They'll have like, world record, you know, this, and then see how they do it. Right. So that's, you know, that's another avenue into game. You don't necessarily have to play it. I don't think it's just something, it's like, you know, just kind of knowing about it and just kind of being a part of the community is not necessarily playing a lot of the time. Even in speedrunning, it's like, these are real turbo nerds, you know. It's like, these, you know, I love them, you know, I don't, you know, I love them, you know, I don't speedrun myself, but I love watching it, and I love, because you learn a lot about game design when, like, watching these people break these games, really, right? So even within that community, there's people who don't run the games at all. Like, they'll like start the game up and it's like, you know, what if we could get, like she said, what if we could get past this corner and jump through and skip all of this stuff? And they literally will just sit there for like, you know, hours trying to, you know, find new glitches or new ways to, you know, kind of take that knowledge and break the world record. So there's all kind of folks within the gaming community, and, you know, as an ambassador, I hope, I would, you know, we love to have you. Just come and watch. The streamers will appreciate you, you know.
And Twitch is free, right? But if you subscribe, just how does that, maybe real quick?
Right. Sorry.
How that kind of works.
I should have talked about that. Yeah. Twitch is absolutely free. Free like YouTube, right?
Yep. That's why I kind of equated the two more.
Right.
Yep. That's why I kind of equated the two more in that space.
Yeah, she's right.
I love it.
She'll never hear those words again. So yeah, it's free in that way. There are, like, if you find a streamer that you really like, you know, you follow them, you watch them all the time, then yeah, you could, subscribe to them for, usually it's $5 a month. And, you know, most of that goes towards supporting them, and, you know, that's their income a lot of the time. Well, I wouldn't say a lot of the time, but some people are full-time streamers, and that's, but, you know, even if you don't subscribe, you support them through ad revenue, things like that. So yeah, it's free. That's kind of what I would suggest. Probably find something that looks interesting to you on Twitch. And then if you were really compelled, because games all day, right? Because, you know, that's just been my life for so long. But, you know, if you're not super compelled, but you're like, hey, I like watching this. This is cool. I like learning about this through, you know, vicariously. Then, hey, yeah, go for it. You know, that's all good.
Cool. I'll talk a little bit about the Dota stuff.
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to bring Christian on, besides he's here and I needed to do another episode.
She needed a warm body.
I needed a warm body. I've done episodes earlier
with cold
talking
bodies.
to myself. Shut up. Talking to myself, and it gets old. It's more fun to actually have someone to things in our relationship wise, and why gaming has been a thing is since 2015 we used to go to these gaming tournaments, and I equate it to like the playoff / Super Bowl of this game, Dota 2.
Yeah.
And so I'll often try and explain to people, because like people are like, how can you have your husband convince you to sit in the stadium for 10 to 12 10 hours a day for like 10 days?
It's crazy.
And I said, I don't know. I must be drinking the Kool-Aid. No, I'm kidding. No, it's actually fun, and I try to explain it to people. So I'm kidding. No, it's actually fun, and I try to explain it to people. So for the lay folks, I'll just give a quick overview, and then you can fill in any major gaps. But I equate it to, that game is Dota 2, which stands for Defense of the Ancient 2. And there was a previous game before. They're not like a sequence like there was a previous game before. They're not like a sequence like, Back to the Future and Back to the Future 2 or something like that. So it's a little bit different. It's like a spin-off of the original Dota game. And sort of similar to World of Warcraft, if you've ever heard that game as well, as far as the character names and stuff. But I would equate it to flag-style games. So you have two teams. There are kind of 3 swim lanes that they operate in, and there's a river that runs in the middle. So if you imagine like a two three-pronged forks facing each other, with the source of the prong where that comes out of being the bases for them. So you're trying to defend your own base and take down, there's other, or like kind of strongholds, if you think of them like a tower would be, for that team. So you're trying to take down their towers to ultimately take down their base further upstream from the river. And
it's a 5-on-5 game.
Yep.
And each player controls usually one hero unit.
That's like
one hero unit.
That's like a character that they're playing.
Yeah, and it's like a character. Like, for example, there's like Beastmaster or Shadow Demon or Mirana.
And there's literally
hundreds. 100. It's like 110 plus heroes.
Yeah, they're
110 plus heroes.
Yeah, so they're using different tools. They use gold to get different abilities and build up their strength of their hero in order to outfight the opponents
and destroy the ancient.
And destroy ancient, as it's called. That's what you're defending, right? The ancient.
Yeah.
And also, so that's the game. And I don't want to go too deep because we could have a whole Dota 2 discussion. But so imagine though, the tournaments themselves are actually quite fun. And I don't play this game. People always ask, do you play it? I was like, no, I've never played.
No.
I've watched, but before I go into the first major. But what makes it really fun for me, I'm a highly competitive person. Love sports in general. So it's very much like watching the playoffs. There are commentators, there are color commentators, there's sideline play-by-plays. In this case, they normally play rounds of like 3 sets of games or 5 sets of games at a time. So there's in-between analysis of what they need to do to come back. So it's really aligned with similar mainstream sports in that way, which makes it really exciting, including stats and statistics and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's really stats and statistics and all this kind of stuff. Yeah. So it's really exciting in that space. And then when you go to it, even more so, because the past year we didn't go because it was in China. And we had already gone to China earlier that year. Yeah. And it was just a whole thing for the amount of time we would need to be there.
Yeah.
It was just a whole thing for the amount of time we would need to be there.
Yeah.
But when you go, also, just like other live events, the energy of the crowd is part of the fun as well.
Oh, yeah.
Especially for, you're cheering for different, like, North American teams in our case. But it's quite fun. So we're definitely excited to go to those things. Yeah. We'll see. For a number of years, they were in Seattle, so it was a hop, skip, and a jump, even when we lived in Canada or here in the West Coast. Yeah. And even when they had it in Vancouver, it's really not far from where we are. But the last couple the last one Sweden, so it's a bit further for the amount of time. And so we'll see about the next. Yeah, and very expensive. The cost of the tickets, the cost of staying, room, board, food, all that kind of stuff. Planes. So we'll see if it comes back on this side of the world. Then I think we'll probably go back again. Yeah. But yeah, so that's where they have it on. They cast it on Twitch, right, and stuff like that. So and it's usually in October. So if you're
no, it's August.
I don't know why I said October. My brain was thinking August. For once, mark this moment. You were right. So August, usually mid-August, right? Like
about
mid. If you look up Dota 2, but what's really cool and interesting and makes it like worthwhile, because some people are like, oh, people spend so much time video gaming, you can't do that. It's not a thing nowadays. In this era, you can totally make a lot of money both on streaming side. If you're really good, you have to be good ultimately, right? Like any sport.
So let's equate into the NFL or the NBA. Well, as a black kid growing up, I knew so many guys that could ball, and they could ball, right? And they're like, yeah, I'm going to the league. How many of them dudes in the league?
Very, very small percentage.
I know one guy.
You know two.
I know two guys. One guy.
You know two.
I know two guys.
Fournette.
Oh yeah, I know two guys in the NFL.
Yep.
Of
the hundreds, and that's just whatever.
Yeah. So it's like that. It's very similar to that. Probably even more so, right? Because it's very similar to that. Probably even more so, right? Because you don't need that athletic skill. You're not held back by your height or your ability to put on mass, right? Your physical strength and agility in general, right? It's just, okay, how much do you know? Finger speed and hand-eye coordination. Well, I would say more hand-eye coordination, obviously, but do you have that amount to compete? So obviously, someone who just starts playing Dota 2, they're at a certain skill level. Then someone who plays, full 5,600 hours playing Dota 2. And compared to the pros, I am absolute garbage. It would be like a troglodyte versus a Homo sapien. Like, it's like we're not even on the same
Let me even break it
brain
down for the
wavelength.
non-science.
Brain wavelength.
Non-science, because you went troglodyte, and I, as a bio person, was like, I don't even remember troglodyte. But anyway, but to put it in context, would be like if Michael Jordan, in their prime, right? These guys are elite athletes. Michael Jordan, Pippen, Scottie, to use another athletes. Michael Jordan, Pippen, Scottie, to use another. Just watching Last Dance, so they're fresh in my mind. 90s. Michael 90s Jordan,
Bulls.
90s Bulls versus
Junior
the high school
varsity.
down the street.
Yeah.
I'll give him a high school varsity team.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
High school varsity, like probably, you know what you're doing. You know what you're doing. You have fundamentals, but
they would basically
hold
they're
my
playing
beer.
Another game.
You're about to get schooled.
They're
like
playing
that.
Another game.
It's another level. So for sure.
So that's what we're talking here, and it really is like that. So Monique having so long, I love this game. I devour information. I'm studying, literally studying all the time. I knew all these interactions between the heroes and the items, and all the and Dota is a special game because of the way they balance it, and people. It's really kind of complicated stuff that people figure out. Okay.
Just to give context for balancing.
Oh God, sorry. Yeah,
I know. I have to try and pull it back.
Yeah,
because
go ahead.
The husband of mine is such a game person. Just like in my world, people throw out acronyms all the time. I try to be very cognizant of that. So balancing the game is I try to be very cognizant of that. So balancing the game is. They do updates ultimately, right? That's what it comes down to. They do updates on the game. It's a computer-based game. So just like on your computer at home, software updates happen that fix things, or on your phone as well. iPhone updates that fix things, or on your phone as well. iPhone updates that fix this quirk, that quirk, to make things better, what have you. Those updates. A lot of times they'll do an update, and so then in that process, especially in the professional setting, they learn ways to exploit the new abilities within that update, for lack of a better term. Not quite abilities, but ways to optimize that game.
Exactly.
So then
that version of the game.
So then when new versions come out, usually those optimizations will change. Or some of them come out. Usually those optimizations will change. Or some of them will change.
So then
that helps to kind of balance everything for those who have been kind of exploiting it in a way.
I have a better, well, not a better,
Different.
yeah, I have a kind of different way to think about it. So yeah, so now that we know what the idea of balancing is,
Yep.
so in a patch cycle, in a update cycle, this X hero is the most powerful hero in the game for whatever reason, right? It doesn't matter, but the pro teams in phase, like I said, there's 5 heroes on one team and 5 heroes on the other. So they couldn't just make it a simple like, hey, just pick your heroes, do it. Because then there would be like super unbalanced games, right? So they have they call it like snake draft or something, where the teams basically take turns picking and banning. So say for the last 3 months, Shadow Demon is 100% pick and or ban. Like this hero is in every single draft, no matter what. And that's kind of a problem when, he's always one of 20-ish heroes out of a pool of 100. Always one of 20-ish heroes out of a pool of 110. So he's kind of out of line, right? He's too strong. He either has to be out of the game or he is picked because, whatever he does is way better than similar heroes or any other hero. So what they'll do is similar heroes or any other hero. So what they'll do is they'll kind of, they call it nerfing in the game world, or they'll just kind of tone down his strength. They'll like make some number adjustments and just make him weaker. Nerfing is to make something weaker. Now that's a gaming term.
Nerfing.
Now, folks, there'll be a quiz for your life. For
your life.
So nerfing is to make weaker. Buffing is the opposite. To buff is to make something stronger, increase the numbers, whatever, right?
Yep.
So
just like going to the gym, buffing.
Yeah, and in Dota, so they have a patch cycle, whatever. The pro teams will figure out the optimal strat, and then and then another patch will come out, and then there'll be buffs and nerfs, and it's like, what does this mean? And so the game kind of is in upheaval for a while, and then it kind of settles into a meta. So meta, is short for meta game, which is kind of the game outside of the game. That's like the kind of basic definition. It's like, obviously the game is Dota 2. You sit down, you play the game, you destroy the ancient. But the meta game is like, what are the strongest heroes? But the meta game is like, what are the strongest heroes in this? It's more
the strategy, right?
Yeah, it's the strategy layer. The strategy layer outside of the actual, like an actual single game, right? What are the trends? What are things like that? So if a gamer comes up to you and starts talking about the Fortnite meta, it's how are people playing Fortnite to to be more successful than someone who's just playing, right? They're just doing whatever, right? So write that one down too, meta. So you got nerf, you got buff, you got meta.
If you're building your gaming dictionary.
So watching Dota is always exciting because I like to see like, okay, what do pros think about this hero? It's funny because a lot of the times my favorite heroes to play are like trash on the pro level, and you never see them, and they only work because the people deal with whatever nonsense that I do in my game. So it's always funny just to see the game played at a higher level, and just going back to the actual tournaments. So the first one we went to was the International 5. So that was in
shorthand is TI.
Yeah, TI. So 5. So that was 2015. This was my first time ever going to a gaming event like this, any kind of thing at all. But Dota just had consumed my life at this point, and there was no way I wasn't going. Basically, and August they're gonna put the tickets on sale soon. I was working at IBM at the time, so it's like whatever. I had the money. I didn't pay for rent at the time, so so I was just like, I'm gonna buy these tickets, and it's gonna be a plane ride, whatever, and then it's gonna be about 10ish days, and it's gonna be great. She's like, I want to go. I'm like, what? It's like I was totally ready to go by myself, but she had all like she said, she offered to go. She wanted to go, and I was like, well, she wanted to go, and I was like, well, okay, so yeah, we went, and so to their credit, they I mean, this is the fifth one, right? At this point, so they knew how to put together a show, and yeah, it was really fun. A really super fun experience. I thought that it would be a lot of just turbo nerds, right? We paid hundreds of dollars to be here. Nerds. I mean, then there's nerd, and then there's turbo nerd.
Turbo nerd.
Then there's nerd, and then there's turbo nerd.
Turbo nerd.
Or at least nerds with money, because the tickets were for the 10 days. It was like 400-ish. It was like $500, I think, for both of us. So about $250 each. So about $250 each. For 10 days, which, I mean, isn't that bad if you think about it. So $25 a day for 10 hours of entertainment. I mean,
it wasn't terrible when you had it, but I mean, like, we have to drop it all at once.
Yeah, you're still dropping a lot of cash to be there. We flew, so this is like I said, the tournament is called the International, and it is truly an international affair. Like, so okay, to break down Dota itself, by region, North America is really the weakest region. We have honestly, okay. So Dota 2 is a North American game. It's made in Seattle area, Bellevue, I think is where they actually are, by Valve Software. So it's an American game, but the actual populace has always been just a real juggernaut when it comes to Dota. Like the Chinese teams are usually the best, and the European teams. Really, it's between like Europe and China for like the top region. Right now, I would probably say it's more Europe. It's a lot of the time it's like, okay, who's gonna beat the best Chinese team, right? But the power has kind of shifted back to Europe, and usually North America would have like one or two like world class teams, mm-hmm. and then a bunch of trash. but Europe and China, they have a lot more talent, and they have a lot more teams that just are on that world class level. So like, Europe will have like 6 teams, China will have like 9, and North America, like I said, will have like 2, right? So all the, like I said, all these, all these regions and all these people come to wherever the international is, and they come in force, especially China. I did not know it was like this. I really didn't expect people to cheer like they did and go absolutely nuts for their team, and all of that.
China travels well. I don't know if they're just coming from regions around, or just from China themselves, or a combination, but they as a team audience travel.
They always so there's like she mentioned before, there's like a actual like commentary happening, just like you would imagine for like a football or basketball game. So there's usually there's English commentators, there's Chinese commentators. There will be like
usually Russian.
It's very popular in Russia, in Eastern Europe and such. Those would be like the main ones. I know they had a Spanish broadcast, but that one's a little bit smaller. That's mostly like South America. South America has a nice Dota scene. It's on the come up. South America has a nice Dota scene. It's on the come up, or it's on the rise. It's about the same level as North America, really. So the Chinese fans, they were crazy. It's just like really we're crazy. It's just like really, they really got into it. They don't care. They would sit next to you, and every little thing that would happen that went good for the Chinese team, they're going crazy, and they were Chinese team, they're going crazy, and they would scream in your ear, really, really added to the like atmosphere and energy. So really, it was just really fun, especially when you beat them and you're like, you're going crazy too, and they're like,
Yeah, the one thing I will say, at least
crazy too, and they're like,
Yeah, the one thing I will say, at least how it was, I don't know, because we didn't go. I can't imagine. We didn't go this past year, which because it was in China, that would have been next level crazy. But the one thing I don't care for with that is that they don't stay around for non-Chinese teams are playing. So like most people will stay around,
watch
even if it's like
everything.
2 European teams, 2 North American teams, what
2
have you.
Chinese teams.
To whatever, even if that's not their team, right? There's only 16 teams that make it to the international, to the main stage.
Yep.
So even if it's not one, maybe one of your 16 got knocked out today. But I find that a lot of the Chinese fans, not all I'm sure, but a good chunk of them, at least from our experience, will just leave. And you can just tell from the sound volume that that's true. But I mean, it is what it is. People do that with other sports too. If your team's not like a lot of people won't watch baseball if their team's not playing. They're not going to just. Kind of true for me for football. I only watch Saints games.
Only watch the Saints.
I mean, I watch a few of the other ones for fantasy more than anything else.
Yeah, so that was a bit crazy. I mean, and it's only really something that we comment on because it's like super obvious.
Correct.
It's like imagine you're at your favorite team's football or baseball game. Your favorite team's football or baseball game, and your team's getting their butt whooped, and it's like a foregone conclusion, right? It's like, I don't know, it's the fourth quarter and the Saints are down 60 points. It's like you might as well leave, right? It was kind of like that. 60 points. It's like you might as well leave, right? It was kind of like that. It's kind of like that kind of thing, that literal like exodus. It'd be like that. That's the only reason why we kind of noted. Like I said, they really add a lot to the atmosphere and just make it feel high stakes, right? I mean, high stakes, people. Holy, so.
I'll say, censor yourself. This is technically a family-friendly podcast.
Yeah, so they are playing for a lot of money.
Oh yeah, we haven't even talked about that.
We did not talk about this.
This is going to be a longer episode than I thought it was going to be, but that's good. I like it. So before we got into explaining Dota, but there's a lot of money on the line. I mean, so the last year's team, I think Christian's checking.
Yeah.
But it was over. So we're looking at, so in US dollars, because mind you, it was in China, it was like over $34 million in the prize pool. And the winning team, I think, went home
got
with
like 25.
25 million?
Yeah, the winning, I know they got like at least 20.
20 million just by themselves?
Yes.
Wow.
So
there's 5 people on a team. So do the math.
And usually
life changing.
So a lot of the time,
so do the math.
And usually
life changing. So
a lot of the time what happens is like these teams will be sponsored by an organization, one of the most popular ones is called Evil Geniuses. And they have a lot of sponsors like Monster Energy Drink, Monster Energy Drink, I think like Comcast. So, they'll pay sometimes it's different contracts and stuff like that I don't know, but usually they'll pay like a share to that organization, right? But the team that won is Team OG 2 times. It was like a player-owned organization, so it's like, so
they get a bulk, like
the lump sum of that.
Correct.
So basically like 5-ish million.
But OG has Red Bull as a sponsor, right? So they have to recoup some of that, right?
Percentage. Yeah, I mean,
compared to
Red Bull should
else.
be paying them at this point.
Yeah,
I mean positive,
promotion stuff.
So they're playing for big money.
Big money.
So like I said,
huge.
Huge. So, huge. So, it helps when there is the Chinese fans, and we're gonna keep singling them out because they are really the
They have
most
such a
hyped.
large presence. It's like going to, in some ways, it feels like a home game when when a Chinese. In some ways, it feels like a home game when when a Chinese. It really does, and it doesn't matter where you are.
It really
It
is.
feels like you're at a home game. If you've ever gone to an away game at some place and you're the 10% of folks.
Yeah, it feels like
It feels like that during the tournaments, which is
It's-
and I
it's-
can only imagine feels like that during the tournaments, which is and I can only imagine what it was like in China,
Oh,
because then
man.
just your Joe Blow, maybe average person who
In
may have just
Shanghai.
wanted to go, and then just the
Yeah.
vibe, because usually I don't know how they did it either for this tournament, but usually there's a whole setup outside and there's kind of like a free to watch for this tournament, but usually there's a whole setup outside and there's kind of like a free to watch big jumbotron
yeah.
kind of setup
Yeah.
screening. So I could imagine, because then you're hearing, because if it gets loud enough, especially during the finals, you can hear stuff from outside the stadium too, right?
Yeah.
People cheering. So imagine it had to
The
be next
roar.
level. But so cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, the international was really special, and it was more fun because we got to experience it together.
Yep. And then we'd also make a little vacation out of it, right? It wasn't like going to
we didn't just go.
because you have to be there, especially for work stuff or whatever, and then you peel out. Sometimes you don't get a lot of time, but we would usually, especially if it was new, first 2 years we're in Seattle. So the first year, definitely we took a couple of extra days. I think it was maybe 3 or 4 days before.
Museums.
Saw different tours, went out to Pike's Place, stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then the stuff we hadn't done. You go anywhere, there's 100 things to do.
Yeah.
So, and then same thing for Vancouver as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, Vancouver. Yep.
So if you want to get into gaming, that's cool.
We
Try out
welcome
this-
you.
We welcome they the
Welcome you.
We welcome they the gaming community. I don't count myself in that. I watch gaming more than anything else. That's the other little quick 60-second thing. Is one thing we do as a couple is Christian's into gaming, but we find some games to quote unquote play together, and the way we play together, because I'm not really together, and the way we play together, because I'm not really that good and I get frustrated playing games, is Christian will play and I will advise.
I'll pilot and she back seats. That's what happens.
That's ultimately what happens. But yeah, so this was good. This was a fun chat. Thanks for coming on, pulling yourself away down the hall. This long trek you had to make to the kitchen table.
Oh yeah.
So thanks for joining us. You want to plug any social media or anything?
No.
Stay continued small.
I mean, all I'd say is, just find a way to enjoy games, because it's really been just a really huge part of my life, and there's a lot of positivity in it. You'll read about some ridiculous stuff that someone has said or whatever, but
That's true for anything.
different kind of stuff out there. There's a lot of games that I don't play that are just different, and so there's something to offer for everyone, for all different kind of folks. So I just say, get out there, look and see if you can find something, because there's something out there. I'm sure.
All kinds of. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So thanks again to Christian for walking down the hall and sitting down with me to talk about video games and a little bit about our relationship. I think we might do a second part to talk about even some currently popular games. One that escaped both our minds during the course of this interview was the game Animal Crossing. So that's very popular. And we can even talk about the phenomenon that is the Nintendo Switch and how it differs in a different way to think of non-computer games, system games, and how they've kind of changed the game. So look for that to come forward to talk a bit about that. But thanks so much for listening. As always, please share this podcast with your friends and family and even your enemies. You can find us on every platform that you can find podcasts. If you come across one that we're not on, let us know. And if you have any questions for Christian, also let us know. You can email me at Monique, MONIQUE, at thevictorypodcast.com. And if you're looking for where to find us and get some direct links to those pages, check us podcast.com. We have a page there called Where to Listen, and you can click straight on Google Podcasts, Podbean, Apple Podcast, and it takes you straight to that page, so you can go ahead and subscribe. So please subscribe and download and share with your friends. You can find us on social media, of course. We are on all the major social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. All of those we're on there as The Victory Pod. So please share that. Please follow. We're looking to expand and share all this great information and great stories with people. So please, please, please share with your friends, family, and even your enemies. Thanks so much for listening. And I'll end this episode like I do every episode. Every problem has a solution. It's whether you're willing to do the work to find it. Let's do the work and be victorious.